really a warm welcome on this sort of relatively autumnal day. We've got a bit of warmth back, I'm pleased to say. So I've got the delight and pleasure to be accompanied by some wonderful speakers, some amazing speakers in the world of ESOL and in the world of immersive learning. I'm Jason Holt. I'm co-founder and CEO of Metaverse Learning, and I'm delighted to say this is our first real opportunity to share with the sector what we have been doing in partnership with Ascentis around using extended reality and immersive learning to help learners learn English. And this is a world first as far as I'm aware. So I would like to just quickly, if I may, if you can come off screen, invite the speakers to introduce themselves. Wonderful. So just a bit of housekeeping before they do. So we will be recording the session. Please feel free to use the chat with any comments or questions you have for any of the speakers. There will be opportunity at the end for Q&A, but we will have a sort of a way in which speakers will share their cameras. Each speaker will be on their own, if you like, and then you will have a chance when you have questions at the end to come off, switch your cameras on, obviously unmute yourself and ask anything you'd like to ask. So without further ado, may I invite Matthew to kick off with introductions.
Thank you, Jason. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew. I work for Ascentis in the product development team here up in Lancaster. My role focuses on product development for ESOL, working on our qualifications, but also been doing quite a lot of work on this project and on this development with Metaverse. Got quite a varied ESOL background, having taught ESOL for over 20 years and working in further education and adult and community education over the last 20 or odd years or so. So I've been kind of working on this development with some colleagues at Metaverse Learning.
Thank you, Matthew. And just to emphasize how much we enjoy working with Ascentis, you've provided all the expertise around ESOL and all the content, and it's been an absolute pleasure working with you to create our first suite of programs, which will be demonstrated later on. Thank you. And then to Lorraine.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lorraine Rogers. I work for the College Merthyr Tydfil here in South Wales. We're a small adult provision north of Cardiff. I'm the ESOL coordinator and a lecturer for the college, and I've been delivering ESOL for around 15 years now. I'm very happy to be part of this project. Thank you.
Welcome, Lorraine. Wonderful to have a teacher's perspective on how these programs have had initial impact on your learners. So thank you. And Laura?
Hi everyone, my name's Laura Wiggin and I'm the ESOL and Community Interpreting Programme Manager at Hopwood Hall College. I also have been in the sector for a long time, so yeah, for about 24 years. So yeah, really enjoyed the trial, which I'm looking forward to sharing with you during this webinar.
Thank you, Laura. We really look forward to hearing your experience so far, especially with the level of experience you have in the sector. So thank you. And James.
So, yep, James Pallister, Director of Client Solutions for Metaverse Learning. Thoroughly passionate about how immersive learning is going to impact teaching and learning, especially in assessment in the future. And a lot of a big portion of my career was spent at an English language teaching publisher, and so I was in and out of ESOL departments a lot, getting to know teachers and departments and what kind of resources they really needed to make sure their students were successful.
Thank you, James, and really looking forward to seeing your demo shortly. So if we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, just in terms of the format. So in the next sort of hour or so, we will obviously be hearing from Matthew, Lorraine, Laura, and James, just to really give bit of context to this, Metaverse Learning is here to respond to what we hear from learners. So we are a 4-year-old business, but actually came out of a much larger business that was sold to Babcock just pre-pandemic. And in response to the pandemic, we kept hearing that learners want more. They need access to experiential learning that wasn't available. And so in the last 3 or 4 years, we've developed a catalogue of programs in partnership with the sector we call consortia, and so we now about 30 different subject areas that have been developed in partnership with expertise from the sector to develop immersive learning programs in mixed reality, augmented reality and virtual reality. And so it's the crucial partnership with Ascentis we are talking about today, who in a joint venture form provided the expertise that developed the programs that you will shortly see. And it is a wonderful example of a technology company like Metaverse Learning working with the sector. Ascentis, an amazing awarding organization, to develop something that really brings learning to life. I will now have the pleasure of handing over to Matthew, who will talk about the partnership and a bit more context to the partnership. Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Jason. Yeah, so as Jason said, I'm working here at Ascentis in product development, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about how this project came to us and why we kind of took it forward, just to give you a bit of context and a bit of background. If you could just move on to the next slide, that'd be great. Okay, yeah, so as Jason kind of mentioned, obviously there's a big shift based on feedback in the development and adaptation of immersive learning in teaching and learning and further education. But initially the traditional vocational areas were the initial focus. For example, construction and health and social care were seen as like the biggest areas to move into. And we thought here at Ascentis, well, this is great. This is a fantastic resource, and it's it is the way forward. It's the future. And why not ESOL? So when we kind of put that question to some of our partners, some people fed back saying things like, well, this probably won't be applicable to ESOL learners. I'm not sure they'll be able to do it. I don't know if learners will be able to kind of understand it or access it, and really we need to kind of stick to very kind of traditional resources and more traditional teaching methods. But we thought here at Ascentis, well, why should this new and kind of innovative technology not be accessible and available to ESOL learners and teachers? There should be no reason why there shouldn't be equality of access to new developments in technology and new things that are out there to support skills and language development. So as the largest ESOL awarding organisation and an educational charity, we thought we have to invest in our centres, in our partners, and essentially within our learners and within the centres learners. So we decided we would kind of work very close with Metaverse Learning on this fantastic project and move it forward. So once we'd agreed that, and once we'd had those discussions and realised the benefits of it and kind of wanted to be involved in this new way, in this new innovative way, we approached some of our centres. We approached a number of FE colleges that deliver our qualifications, ESOL tutors, just to kind of get their input and get their take on it. We shared and explained the concept. And really what we wanted some input on what the environments would be suitable and what skills maybe would be the best to focus on, any initial work we might build, any kind of initial things that we would put together. So we got that feedback, and a lot of the things that we fed back we have implemented into the environments. For example, we've got the doctor's surgery environment, we've got the parents' evening. We've got the interview for higher level students, and that all came through feedback from a number of our centres, and tutors fed that back in. So what we then did, we kind of looked at these potential environments, and the guys at Metaverse, the tech guys, were working on building these environments for us, and we matched kind of the environments to the level, but also the language functions, and trying to keep a reference always in mind to the outcomes of the ESOL core curriculum and the levels really. And obviously this all came together, and kind of brought us onto the design and the development stage of the content. So we started developing the content with a variable focus across the different scenarios, mapping it all out, thinking about, well, we need to cover vocabulary, reading, listening, grammar, phonology aspect, and obviously some lexical stuff as well. We also made sure we put in some kind of sub-skills focus, so where it's reading, there was reading for detail, looking at different purpose of text and that kind of thing. And to kind of promote effective, independent ESOL learning, relevant, but within the contextualized scenarios. So all this work was coming together, inputting with the language and designing the environments, and then through kind of a lot of detailed work with the development team at Metaverse, we had to kind of dovetail that planning and that development with Metaverse learning, so that the language content and the kind of activities that we built in there complemented navigating around the scenario, because it is an immersive learning, and when you're in there, you are moving around. So we looked at all those aspects, put it all together over quite a long development period. That went through kind of like thorough testing and lots of reviewing, gauging bits of feedback along the way, internally, and then we kind of shared that as well externally with partners and centres for some feedback and some input into the ongoing development, before getting to the final stage really, which was for me personally the most exciting aspect of it, actually getting some learners and some staff out in centres engaged and actually using it, and really kind of bringing this to life, because this had been kind of obviously behind a number of people's desks for quite a while, and really wanted to get to the point where we could get a learner or two using it and really involved and engaged with it, and that's what we were then able to do by working with some of our centres and our partners, and we're fortunate to have a couple of those today, in Lorraine from Merthyr Tydfil and Laura from Hotwood Hall in Rochdale. So we're going to move on to Lorraine, who's going to do a little bit of input about what they did in Merthyr Tydfil and how they kind of tried and tested and engaged with the resource. But before that, I believe we've got a wonderful little clip which is capturing what some learners felt, and how they interacted with it they'd interacted with it the first time, and this is kind of a little clip about getting some direct feedback from the students on what they thought.
What I liked about it is you can replay whenever you don't understand something, and especially when learning a new language, in my case English, having the possibility to replay something is very beneficial.
It was very nice. It's like a game and I love gaming. It was easily understandable for everyone.
And reading and answer the questions. found it amazing. There is like a lot of grammar. If for the people who like to improve their English, I think there is amazing word to use to improve their English. Because this is my first time to see this app. I found it amazing, you know.
Thank you all. Can I just check you saw that video? I've got a message from Rachel Minto that she couldn't see. Okay, so we've got a thumbs up. Sorry, Rachel. We can always send you a link to that video later on. But delighted to introduce you now to Lorraine. Thank you, Matthew, for a great context and background to what you've done at Ascentis to create this amazing suite of programs. Over to you, Lorraine.
Thank you very much. So again, welcome everybody. Here at Merthyr College, part of our ESOL team, we've always been very keen to promote the use of IT in classrooms long since before the pandemic. And since our return to the classroom, this has been another element of our provision that we've tried to promote digital inclusion across the board. And just before the summer break, we were very privileged to be approached by Ascentis and see if we wouldn't mind trialing the new Metaverse Learning platform, which we're here today to discuss. Initially, we staff all tried it out to ensure that this was something quite we wanted to introduce to learners. We had our reservations, as I'm sure many of you already do, about whether or not the learners would be able to interact correctly, or whether the controls would be too difficult to manage, and whether they would understand the different parts of the tasks. However, I am very pleased to report that this is a very unfounded fear based on the trial that we did in the summer. So we were offering free open workshops during the summer months, and the Metaverse platform was one of them. It was open to all of our 5 levels, so from entry 1 to level 2. We had one first cohort in the early part of June, which consisted of 8 learners. It was entry 1 and level 1. This was all done voluntarily by the students. And we started off our session with just a brief tutorial to show them how to use the controls, following the keyboard. So we had it up on the screen, and they had their own little keyboard in front of them on a laptop. And those that did attend that first session, we decided that we were going to pair higher and lower levels together. And obviously we tried to mix the IT skills as well. So we had a couple of high level learners using the keyboard, being instructed by the entry 1 learners, on what to do and where to go next. And it also provided a good opportunity for promoting discussion and questioning, like especially when entry 1 learners were not understanding maybe what they had to do. So yeah, they all had the opportunity of choosing whichever task that they wanted to do, or whichever scenario. There were only, I believe, only 4 or 5 available at the time, and now they have since progressed and developed in some really nice ones as well. The ones that the students really enjoyed using were the house ones and the travel agency. The house one was done entry 1 and entry 2. And the travel agency scenario is one that extends from entry 1 and sort of gradually increases in difficulty as you progress through the scenario towards level 1. A week later, we held another open cohort, and we were pleased to note that there was an increase in learners. So we had an additional 12 learners on top of the 8 attend, so it was 20 learners. And as you can see from the slide in front of you, it's all, we only have an adult provision here, so it's not 16 to 18. We were working with 30 to 60 plus adults. None of the learners had great difficulty in managing the controls. As I mentioned earlier, it was a really, really positive experience. And of course, we had to be there as tutors to guide them and answer some basic questions and things as we went along. And it was a really nice opportunity for learners to explore different scenarios, maybe that they hadn't in class yet, or their language wasn't ready for. And all the learners felt that they were being sufficiently challenged. Even those at level 2, there were always maybe some gaps. As we know from ESOL learners, they tend to have a spiky profile. So there are always little gaps that these scenarios can try and fill as well. The final feedback sheet was really beneficial for both ourselves and the learners. It promoted a great opportunity for discussion, not just within the students themselves, but also questions for teachers as well. So that was really beneficial all around. Practical skills wise, there's a great opportunity for them as they go through the scenario to like replay. So a lot of our learners, especially at the entry one, they were pressing this replay button and they were then sounding out the task, whether it was like, you know, what word is this? And they would say chair, you know, and then they had that opportunity to replay as well. As you can see, just for some basic comments, as I said, we didn't have the luxury of a video, but I preferred the travel. It was more interesting for me. It was really nice to see Wales on the map, as well as Scotland and Northern Ireland. They really enjoyed learning about the UK and, you know, just different scenarios about how to get on, how to buy a ticket, what kind of answer was suitable, things like this. And the nice opportunity is that even after they finish it, they get a feedback sheet, as I mentioned, and this is something then that gives them a percentage of how they scored. And then as a teacher, you could monitor that if you wanted them to replay anything. But the learners found it incredibly beneficial and were quite happy to just sort of play around and just have these different experiences, learning from each other, but also, you know, just independently as well. I think that's all that I have for the time being. So I'm going to hand over to Laura, who is going to share a different perspective with you from the 16 to 18 provision.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. Wonderful. Nice to hand over to Laura now.
Hi everyone. Thanks Lorraine. It's interesting that lots of there are some similarities, definitely. So I hope I'm not repeating myself really. We're lucky here at Hopwood Hall College in the ESOL department because we have good access to IT. I've got a few more slides actually. So first I want to talk about details and feedback of the trials, and then I'll go on to next steps and how we've embedded it into the curriculum. Thank you, that's perfect, that slide. So we're lucky here in the ESOL department because we do have really good access to IT. The staff and the learners are really keen to develop their digital skills. We use a VLE to share resources and messages with the learners and found that sharing details as an announcement worked really well so that the learners could access the materials, because that's one of the things when we're trialing it. The trial lasted for 1 month in June, which was the end of our academic year. First, Ascentis came into Rochdale and they supported us on day 1. Then the staff used Metaverse throughout June with the students, and then the staff fed back to Ascentis at the end of June as part of our kind of end of term training. So it was a really nice end of year for the staff and for the students. We trialled it with predominantly 16 to 18, but there were a few adults were interested in it too, so we didn't want to hold back. On the first day, what we found was that the students were always fully engaged. When on the first day of the trial, when Ascentis came in, we thought, oh, are they just really keen, you know, because we've got these visitors here. But even once the Ascentis had left, every time we do something with Metaverse, the students are just so engaged and they really, really enjoy the activities. One thing that we did find, because I mentioned that we've got good IT here, we've got iGels and we've got laptops. We did find that they worked much better on the laptops. And then also by having this VLE announcement, they could click on the link, they had the password, they had the username, and then it just makes it easier for the students to log on, and then you know that it's going to work. Feedback from the teachers. They found that it was a really fun way to develop the skills and knowledge required for the Sentis assessments and obviously for learning English too. It was a great way of practicing digital skills and promoting independent learning. From a support perspective, on day one, it was great for Ascentis to be there. They were supporting the staff, the students, and then as those staff became more confident using it, then they could support other teachers. And I think with anything digital, you know, you're worried about it not working, and what do you do if it doesn't work? But it did work, which was great. One thing that we found is, because in the trial we had kind of a class-based facilitation, there was independent study, and then there was kind of pair work and group work. And where we found that it was really good when we demoed it as a class for the students to have computers, and they were doing it at the same time. So some picked up the finger controls really quickly, and then they could support others. And that support, you know, support for staff, the support for students, which was in place, and everyone was happy. They were engaged. They were positive to learning. We've got headphones. I do recommend that if you are doing this in the classroom with more than one student, that you have headphones, and then they can fully participate. If you don't, it does get rather noisy, and students can't really concentrate on their own task. Feedback from the students, they loved it. They absolutely loved it. I've got some quotes here. They liked how realistic the scenario was. It provided practical questions and responses that one might encounter in a real job interview. The job interview was the students' favourite, really. It was a great way to practice my conversation and professional English. What else did they say? It helps me to understand how to go to an interview and how to be confident. I learned how to handle interviews. It improves the confidence of the person doing the simulation, also giving a proper view of what to expect in such cases. Mostly improves grammar and vocabulary. It showed me some new words and added to my vocabulary. Not just that, but helps you to understand the correct use of words in language. Really positive from the staff and the students. The next steps, if you could just move on to the, thank you, to the next slide. What we've done here at Hopwood Hall College is we've already embedded what seemingly the favourite into the curriculum. We have a project every year, academic year, called You're Hired. And You're Hired, it's a competition between all of our entry 3 learners, and it runs over 3 weeks. You can see where we planned it, week 17, 18 and 19. So in week 17, in one of the sessions, we'll be doing the immersive activity, just to introduce students to job interviews, and so we know what we want them to expect, and then they'll be able to prepare answers to questions, and then they'll be able to follow the process. But so we've always done it, so it'll be really interesting to get feedback from this in January, to see whether it's helped them, which I'm sure it will. What other next steps have we got? At the end of last academic year, when we were doing the other scenarios like the cafe and the travel agents, it was at the end of the academic year, so we'd finished all the content. But this year we want to kind of run it alongside and embed it into some of the sessions. The students, they did say, could you design transport guidance next? That was one of their requests. And yeah, the students and the staff are looking forward to completing more scenarios as they are developed. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It was great.
Wow, Laura, thank you so much, and Lorraine, thank you so much. There's nothing better than to hear from from you as to what it actually means, because as you say, it hadn't been done before in ESOL. We've had plenty of direct experience of using immersive learning in areas of practical skills, but to hear from you that the learners found it amazing, they found it engaging, it really helped them learn digital skills and also to be independent in their learning, is absolutely fantastic. And this is actually at a time where we know that engagement and preparing learners for work, enriching curriculum is sort of the name of the game in terms of Ofsted. So really great to hear that, and thank you so much for being part of this webinar, both you, Laura, and Lorraine. We will have time for Q&A at the end, but please can I encourage you all to ask anything in the chat. We've got amazing expertise amongst our speakers and between yourselves, so please do use the chat to start a dialogue. I'm now delighted to hand over to my colleague James Pallister, who will demonstrate some of the programs that we've been talking about earlier. Over to you, James.
Cool, perfect. And I'm hoping that everyone can now see my screen okay. No one's saying no. Perfect. So,
good.
Ace. So in terms of the content that we've got, 8 scenarios have been co-developed. I just want to take you through a whistle-stop tour of some of the content, and I'll have my faithful class of Lorraine, Laura, and Matthew with me for some of the activities here. To start off with, ESOL scenario 1, attending an interview at entry level 3. And what you should be hearing now is the sounds of an interview room, and there's several different controls on here to influence the difficulty. So you can have the subtitles on and off, and you can also have a dark theme or a light theme, whatever students feel a bit more comfortable with. And it's the same controls that students would usually use with gaming. So they should feel like they're gaming, but they're also learning a lot at the same time. They should feel very engaged with the scenario. And within the scenario on the PC version, I can rotate my avatar around, walk into places as you would do in a normal situation. Now, this particular scenario is a job interview scenario. So I think this one would be rather good to be used as flipped classroom, giving to the students for homework. Teacher sees how they've gone on, and then you kind of cover the stuff that students have done well or haven't done so well in class the next day. So I'm going to be knocking on the door first before being led into the interview. Can we, does anyone think of why we'd want to knock on the door before we would be entering the interview room? Anyone at all? Probably because we want to seem rude. You don't want to be kicked out the interview or something like that, or give the interviewer a bad impression. So let's go and have a chat with our interviewer here.
Hello there. Welcome. Please take a seat.
So let's go
Hello.
take a seat.
Thank you.
And give students the, not just the skills to be English language skills, but also interview skills to help them get a really great job. So let's have a seat down here.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Jack's Bakes. We are the UK's largest supplier of bread and cakes to Britain's supermarkets. Baking the tastiest and best products is our passion. My name is Mrs. Roberts, and I am a senior manager here at the factory. But please call me Sarah Jane. Thank you for attending today's interview for the position of team supervisor in the packaging team.
Fantastic. And then we're asked questions. And if this is embedded into your virtual learning environment, you're accessing it via Sentis, you should be able to see what scores your students have got. We can also replay the audio as well if we need to.
Welcome to Jack's Bakes. We are the UK's largest supplier of bread.
So, Jason, just a quick question for you. Did you manage to get the right answers for this one? What do you think the role for the interviewer is?
I'm going to be a bad student here because I thought that Laura and Lorraine were going to be and Matthew were going to be your students.
You're my student now, Jason.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, Lorraine can follow, and as can Laura. How about that? So,
Perfect.
I think this is going to be a team supervisor.
Team supervisor, let's check if you're right. Oh, perfect. Fantastic. I think it looks like you've done the scenario before, Jason, perhaps.
Possibly.
And it gives you feedback of whether you're right or wrong. But I want to show you a long range of different scenarios. So you've got a different scenario here. Scenario 3, house and home, vocab and grammar to describe for entry level 1. So here we go. We've got a nice house here. And what is this really nice to do is also use it for front of class discussion. So Laura, I saw that you've got you're on camera just a second ago. I've got my whiteboard here that I can be jotting things down on. So Laura, to pick some really great vocab and grammar, what kind of house is this?
A detached house.
Detached house, perfect. So what kind of, what does detached mean?
Detached means it stands alone.
Perfect. Jason, can you think of any other kinds of house you can have?
Semi-detached.
Semi-detached. And then I could write semi on the board. What other things can have semi before them? Thinking possibly about sports or geometry.
Semicircle.
Semicircle, perfect. And again, you can use the scenario for more than it's meant to be rather than just going through it from A to Z. So let's go inside the house. And I'm going to move into the living room. Here we go. I'm going to sit on the sofa.
Sofa. There is a sofa and it has 2 cushions.
Oh, perfect. So what colour's the sofa, Jason?
A grey.
Right, it looks more bluey to me. So we probably need to work on some colours and things like that. Laura, how many seats does your sofa have at home?
Mine has three
Perfect.
seats.
So you can bring the students' answers within this. And then let's also go to the
Television.
TV next.
There is a television. It is on the wall.
Perfect. What is it doing on the wall, Jason?
It's hanging on the wall.
Hanging on the wall, perfect. And I can write again on my whiteboard next to when I'm doing this front of class. Hanging on the wall. Laura, what else would you hang on the wall?
I would hang pictures on the wall.
Pictures, what kind of pictures would you hang? Would it be photographs or more like paintings and things like that?
I think both. Yeah, photographs and paintings.
Perfect. And what kind of paintings do you like?
I like paintings by artists and I like paintings by my children.
Perfect. So there's some great grammar and vocab here. I can focus on some of the collocations as well, but use it to get some great feedback because everyone's got something to say about what their house and they love talking about themselves. So it's a great opportunity to get students discussing and talking about the scenarios. So let's do another one here. So you've got the travel office. And on this particular scenario, I've got a map of the UK. So I'm learning about particular areas of the UK. And I'm also going to be practicing some of my functional skills here by working out when I'm going to get the train to Manchester or to Leeds or to Blackburn and things like that. So let's go over to the map of the UK to begin with. And I've got to select the correct parts of the correct countries here. It's a shame Lorraine's not on here because I'm having trouble thinking where Wales could be. My geography knowledge is terrible.
Oh, Lorraine's there. Lorraine's here.
I am here, and it's blue, please.
Blue, are you sure?
I hope so.
Perfect. Okay, brilliant. Okay, I'm very whistle stop, and I wanted to do some more scenarios towards the end here. So this is a doctor's surgery scenario, scenario 6, and for entry levels 1 and 2. So here we go. Doctor's surgery. Before I was doing this, maybe I could prep my students with questions in terms of what would they anticipate to see at the doctor's surgery? What would they do at the doctor's surgery? Why would they go to the doctor's surgery? And in due course, we should also be having some rather good lesson plans for you all for these particular scenarios as well. So let's take a look at the NHS leaflet here. So a bit of reading comprehension. So I know you haven't had a chance to read this, Jason, but what do you reckon this leaflet could, what is the purpose of this leaflet? We might want to go into what is the meaning of purpose. Is it to instruct, advertise, or to inform?
I'd say inform.
inform. And most leaflets, I think, are there to inform, certainly when you go into hospitals or to doctor's surgeries, where like the NHS is obviously, you know, not private, so we're not really there to advertise the NHS. I suppose you might advertise some things if you wanted to advertise particular services. I'm just going to skip through some of these questions in terms of what the purpose of the leaflet is. Here we go. There's a nice matching question here that the students could be doing. What it's really nice to also do is to use it as a diving board for a role play. So here now, I've got to have a bit of a conversation with the receptionist for the doctor's surgery. Let's have a bit of a chat with her.
Hello, welcome to the GP surgery. How may I help you today?
So what would you say in response? I'm here to meet my friend. I'm looking for the nurse. I need to change my appointment, please. So Matthew, why do you reckon you'd walk into a doctor's surgery? I'm presuming you don't know anyone at the doctor's surgery. I should premise on this particular scenario. You don't have any friends there. Well, I think you're on mute. I've been lip reading though. I think maybe I need to change my appointment, please.
Correct. I'm looking to change my appointment.
Nice.
I need to change my appointment, please.
Who is your appointment with? When is it?
So what do you reckon, Laura? It is on Tuesday next week with Dr. Harwood. There is a delivery on Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
Tuesday with Dr. Harwood.
Tuesday with Dr. Harwood, perfect. And what I could do from this is I could do a role play, getting the students into pairs, one of them being the receptionist, one of them being the person who's coming in, and they could have a bit of a chat, have a bit of a fun thing to do in terms of getting some of this language across essentially. So you can use it for jumping role plays, not just for formative assessment or front of class teaching as well. And then just another scenario. So this time round, it's entry level 3, and I'm in a school, and I'm in a parents' evening. So dreaded parents' evening. I'm really hoping that my students have been good students, and I won't get a telling off by the teacher, essentially. So we've got safeguarding poster here. Perfect, nice. I'm just going to be doing another matching activity here. I'm not really worried if I'm getting this right at the moment, because I want to carry on and actually see the teacher in just a second. Take a look at some of the reporting practice procedures and things like that. Common posters you'd be seeing in a school environment. Let's go and have a chat with the classroom teacher. Perfect. Here we go. Let's have a chat with the teacher. Oh, hello. We've got a nice periodic table. Probably a science teacher, I think, probably deduced from something like this.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wang. I want to talk to you about my child's progress in school, particularly in English, art, geography and music.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Alley. Of course, I'm happy to discuss your child's progress in those subjects. Let's start with English. Here, your child has been making good progress in language skills. They really enjoy class discussions and have shown improvement in their vocabulary and grammar. They recently completed a reading activity, and I was impressed with their ability to read the text and answer questions.
That's wonderful to hear. They were interested in English from a young age. How about art?
They have been very creative and enthusiastic. They enjoy drawing and painting. Their imagination really shines through in their artwork.
That's fantastic. I'm glad to know they're exploring their artistic side.
Some great grammar and vocab we could unpick from that. Jason, how would you feel if one of your daughters was given that report from school from a teacher?
Good.
Yeah, you'd be chuffed, wouldn't you? I think most people would be chuffed. Like, sounds like a star pupil. Unfortunately, the daughter, the other pupil, doesn't get quite such a good report coming in. And I know we're very pressed for time, so I'm just going to be doing the last scenario, which is a cafe scenario. And as some of our speakers have already said, what's really nice is you can also use this for project work as well. So instead of just doing the scenario, perhaps in this particular project work, you could be looking at some of the different stands and things like that on here, be working out like labeling, packaging and things like that, or be thinking about how we could improve this in speaking in English about how we could possibly improve this particular cafe to make it more attractive for some of the some people coming in, to make it more business. I'm guessing that you might have a few students who even have people who own cafes or want to do business or something. So speaking about English with business skills and stuff like that in this particular scenario. Let's go and have a sit down with my friends. Laura, what do you think we're going to have a chat with, first of all, with our friend? What do British people usually have a chat with when they first see someone?
The weather.
The weather, perfect.
Hello, how are you? I'm good, thanks. It's great to see you.
And
it's cold today, isn't it? Yes, it is. It was icy this morning. Have you seen the weather forecast for the weekend?
So Jason, why do you think a lot of people start by breaking the ice, pun intended, with the weather?
Well, because it's always changing in Britain, isn't it? So it's never a dull moment with the weather.
Very seasonal, yeah. But we'll be having a massive chat with our friends. The waiter will be coming over, taking orders, but it's all lovely, functional English that students can put in their pocket and take with them straight away, essentially. Because everyone goes to a cafe, or a place to buy some food, quite a few times in the week in my occasion. I think a lot of the students' occasions as well. So I will stop sharing my screen there, but hopefully I've given everyone a bit of a flavour of some of the scenarios that are available via us and some of the ways that you could potentially use them with your students.
Brilliant presentation, James, and really brings home just how multi-purpose these scenarios are in terms of directive learning, but also front of class and many other ways. So thanks for putting me on the hot seat as well. You'd be a great teacher. Prefer having you as my colleague in Metaverse Learning. So delighted to, and if Laura and Lorraine want to come back on screen. So we're now inviting all of you to ask any questions you like. There's a something in the chat around implementation in the reality of the classroom and how difficult or not that was. Laura, you might want to just elaborate on sort of how you found actually introducing the programs in your class, and maybe Lorraine too. But please, if you want to come off, turn your cameras on. Ashish, is that now? Can you now make everyone able to turn on their cameras and unmute themselves? Hopefully that will work. But yes, perfect. So over to you, Laura, Lorraine, if you want to sort of expand on how you found it sort of in terms of integrating in your classroom.
Thank you, Jason. As I've mentioned in chat, we use laptops. The question on the chat is iPads, would they work? They don't work very well on phones. I think there was only one learner. One learner did manage to get on their phone. I'm not sure about iPads though. We've not tried with those. Did you, Lorraine?
No, I was just about to say we tried the mobile, but it just wouldn't load correctly on a mobile, which is kind of a shame, really, because obviously all our learners have them. I imagine it would work on iPads though, as long as they were quite up to date ones, because of the technology that's used to create the software.
Correct, that is right. We don't recommend phones because some iPhone iOS blocks on iPhone, but we know that they work on every tablet. So yeah, it's a good point.
Great.
Also a question of screen size as well. Sometimes it's this amazing immersive content, but to get the full flavour of it, it's best to use it on a tablet or bigger, basically, in terms of screen size.
Natalie, I think you've had your hand up from the beginning. I wasn't sure if that was a question, but do you have a question for the panel? You don't. Okay, fine. I think Laura, in your presentation, you talked a little bit about sort of additional scenarios that have been requested. You mentioned navigating transport, and I suppose that opens a question to to all of you. Where would you see additional scenarios being useful in the context of teaching English? Are there any sort of thoughts around different subject areas or even different levels? And while we're waiting for anyone to sort of share their thoughts, I don't know, Matthew, what your thoughts are in terms of the next phase from a Sentis point of view in sort of where this might go.
I think we'd probably go back to almost where we started at the beginning, and we will be looking for that input and that kind of direction from centres and you guys that are out there with the learners. So that feedback will be really important if we were going to take this further and start devising different scenarios, different kind of environments. Because we've got some great ideas, but at the end of the day, it's all for the learners at the front facing, and it's all for the tutors that are going to be using it. So really, we'd start there really with kind of any input that anybody wants to share with us. Then you can always get in touch with directly at Sentis through the development at Sentis or through Metaverse, through James and Jason, etc. And really kind of speak to the learners, get your learners using it and see what else they want. Like Laura's guys over in Rochdale probably want something different than Lorraine's adults down in Wales, and maybe someone who's on the call from London compared to students in Lancashire. It's probably going to be different, and I think that we'd just look at that and say, okay, this is probably a good thing for us to invest time and resource into, because we want to get the most use out of it, really.
Brilliant, thank you. And absolutely, I think it would depend on where you are and what your needs are, and also the age group of the learners. And I know one of the things that really hit me is that you'd think that learners of sort of younger learners would prefer this, but actually from what I heard from feedback is actually older learners also very keen on this. Not sure if you want to talk to that, but in the meantime, I've got, sorry, Laura, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to add, because we did do it with the adults as well, and they really enjoyed it. And I kind of, some of them, it took them back to the old Spectrum, that kind of, those computer games, and whereas some of the teenagers were a bit puzzled by the keyboard, and they didn't. So it was it was nice to try it with both, and they both enjoyed it as much.
Surprising to think that the older learners would like games, but like me. But great to hear. Natalie, you I think you have now raised your question. Yeah. Your hand for a question.
Yeah, would there be anything about shopping for clothes, or shopping at supermarket or at the market, or anything like that? Because I find that is something that always comes up. I teach adults, but so maybe.
I think that'd be a great scenario to co-develop in the future, and you're not the first person to request that from people I've been speaking to as well. So it sounds like it might be a rather popular one in terms of things.
Thank you.
Is that what you've been requested a lot as well, Matthew, from your roadshow shopping?
Yeah, I think that's one of the big ones, is to do some shopping scenarios. That would be probably one of the kind of ones up the priority list. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got additionally joining an adult learning class and joining the library from Francesca.
There are a couple of questions in your Q&A section as well. One person's asking about subtitles.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful, Kenya. Thank you for spotting that. I don't always see Q&A. So can we switch off the subtitles? Yes, you can. The interface now allows for subtitles and no subtitles, and also different types of screens, so that it's as accessible an extended reality program as possible. So yes. So Paul, are you part of the Ascentis? Is Ascentis your awarding organisation for ESOL? Just to make the point that if they are, then this becomes part of your content that you have automatically for free. Is that right, Matthew?
That's right, yeah. So people that deliver our assessments through ESOL, our ESOL customers, can access the laptop and the kind of like the desktop-based version of all the scenarios for free as part of being our kind of like wider package to our ESOL customers. Yeah,
it's a great perk. We've got also a suggestion of green skills, assessing the energy efficiency of a home, a visit from a consultant on this for a quote. Great one. So we'll take this away as part of safeguarding and prevent British values. Thank you. That all great points. So we've got another couple of minutes. I wonder, Matthew Corbett. Sorry, that's you, Matthew. Did you want to make a point?
Yes, I was just thinking, Jason, if we've got a little bit of time left, I could share a couple of further suggested uses for the scenario if we've got some, practitioners on there, based on some other feedback that we've got.
Yeah. If we could spend a minute on each one on that, and then sort of make some closing remarks. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So, kind of beyond the learner sitting in front of the screen and navigating the scenario individually and independently, we've got a number of suggested ways now to support delivery through kind of like a learner-centered teaching activity where they're navigating it together, peer correcting and working with scenarios in a class or a group. Again, I think James touched on this, so navigating the scenario to a specific aspect or juncture to elicit language and vocabulary. So, for example, in the house, there's not just the living room, there's the kitchen, there's the bathroom, the bedroom, the garden. So you can navigate it to that particular room and elicit vocabulary using that kind of resource and as an image, which someone who teaches pre-entry learners said they would just use it that way to stimulate the learners and to try and kind of elicit language. I think part of Lorraine's steps going forward, I think Lorraine mentioned to me that she's going to set it up as part of her induction process, so that learners get access to it and they understand it from the beginning of the year. Laura mentioned about identifying junctures and topics in the scheme of work, so that it can be used to either pre-teach or consolidate learning. And obviously you can hone in on specific vocabulary and grammar, different classroom activities. I think there's a few more on the next slide. To use as kind of a post-engagement task to support any writing or speaking development, to use it to support input, and then, for example, after interview, the learners can compile different questions, interview questions for the same scenario or for different jobs, developing vocabulary related to skills and attributes, etc. So I think that obviously everyone's going to get access to these anyway. These are just some further ways to support the delivery beyond the learner kind of just sitting on it independently. So there are many different aspects that you can tap into this resource. And I think that's it really from me. I'll probably hand back to Jason now because I've probably spoke too much, but there we go.
Thank you. We've got one question from Claudia about, can the dialogue be slowed down? And this is a tough one because we've taken guidance from you, Matthew, and your team at Ascentis around what is the perfect pace. But it's something we can always look at as being the ideal pace of delivering messages and dialogue. I'm conscious of everyone's time, and please do, Claudia, come back to us and we can elaborate on that. But can I just take this opportunity to thank all of you for joining us today. This is genuinely a world first in using extended reality to bring to life English learning in a way that is really making an impact for learners. Thank you to Matthew, to Lorraine, to Laura, to James for all your expertise and bringing this to life for all of us. And I really appreciate all your time. Have a great rest of the day and look forward to hearing from you with any of your thoughts and insights as to where you think we should be going next with this. But thank you to you all, and look forward to our next time where we can be together. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thanks very much.